So we're in Georgetown today, talking to Justin Early. He is also running for District 31 House Representative, I believe.
That's correct.
Yes. First question, what is your background?
Yeah.
Who is Justin Early?
Who is Justin Early? No, I grew up in this area. I went to elementary school in Bell County, and then I graduated high school from Williams County, from Leander High School, and I joined the U.S. Army straight out of high school. I like to joke that the first Mission Impossible that had Tom Cruise in it, Emilio Estevez is a character who's hacking from inside the elevator shaft. And I saw that movie and I was like, that's what I want to do, you know? So I joined the Army in order to learn systems and hack systems. Didn't exactly happen that way, but eventually I did end up at the Pentagon, working for the Defense Intelligence Agency.
What?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. It was a great time, great job I had. I had the opportunity to bring my mother into the Pentagon and walk her around just for like a little bit of time. And my mother was so impressed that I knew so many people. And, you know, when you work in that strategic environment, even if you are a young, enlisted individual, your intelligence really is what gives you rank and privilege, right? You don't get rank, you get paid as much. But literally, I had people who were listening to me who outranked me by far. So it was an amazing opportunity to know the interesting portion of my place, apply my skills and my abilities, but then also learn humility and understanding what was going on. So I got to show my mother that, and my mother talks about that story often. After my time in the Army, I came back to Texas, and my wife, Tony, and I, we raised 7 children, and they're all out of the house now. And so we lived down here in Georgetown, Texas. And this is my home where I grew up. So I grew up in Williamson County, so I'm back here again. And we've been here for about 3 years now again. And I just love the area. It's phenomenal. So what I do today is I'm a cybersecurity architect at Dell Technologies. So I did end up doing a little bit of hacking stuff and that kind of stuff. But now I am a architect, and I've done things such as led teams, organized different organizations around cybersecurity. I've helped mentor young people. So I've done a lot of different things for the community in itself, but I'd say for my day job is cybersecurity. And now I want to take these skills and run for Congress. So
That's so sick.
Thank you.
What an extensive background you have.
Thank you.
So why did you decide to run?
Yeah, so there was no one specific, catalyst that did it. There's a lot of little things. And so as I talk about my background, I did a lot for the community. I did a lot of volunteering for various campaigns. I did work for Wendy Davis's campaign.
Okay.
We hosted like 4 people in the House, I believe, at that time for Wendy Davis's campaign. Did a lot of, work on that. Got to see a really good ground game there. Did a lot of work for Beto O'Rourke's campaign.
Oh, cool.
Worked on the congressional campaign for Mark Green. Did a lot of work for Mark Green. And he was running against Kay Granger up in the DFW area. And so did a lot of work for the party county, all those things. And so while trying to make sure that the party was working and our, things were happening the way we wanted to go, that was great and wonderful up in the DFW area. So when I moved down here, I kind of took a break. I took a step back from it.
Okay.
But I did a lot of work communicating with people about the importance of voting, the importance of elections, the importance of what, we need to be doing. And then then the election happened, 2024 happened, right? And I kind of hit a funk. And in that funk, I figured, this is not who I am. I need to stand up and do something and put my name in the hat to see what I can do. And a lot of things that happened along the way led to me saying, this is a time to do something and run. Specifically, my parents are both retired. They receive over 80% of their income from the federal government. I'm a veteran, and I'm a disabled veteran as well. So I visit the VA hospitals a lot and the VA a lot. Speaking to different veterans, speaking to different retired people, I recognize that the promise of America that we've all grown up with is getting further and further away. And I did a big push to read a lot of different books between the last few years. And what I recognized was that it's not that the promise of America is not being fulfilled, is that the promise of America is not living up to its ideals. There are absolutely things that are happening today that work for some, but not for others and not for all. And if we're working in a system that is for all, we need to work for all. Be that as it is, let me just summarize this on. When it was finally time to say, I'm going to run for something, I looked at the field. I have a lot of federal experience. I have a lot of experience understanding how large systems work. And right now, well, let me tell you this too. As a cybersecurity architect, I'm trained to look at vulnerabilities. And the vulnerabilities that we have in the U.S. are our democracy, our economy. These are things that really affect everyday people. And so while we talk initially about, hey, your groceries are higher, hey, your gas is higher, hey, your these are not working for you.
That's just the surface.
That's the surface.
Yeah.
Really, we need to talk about the underlying systems that absolutely drive these things. And so my perspective is, how do I affect these underlying systems to then provide funding for housing, provide funding for those things? And that is a move to Congress. That is a run for Congress.
That was a lot.
It was
a lot, but I like that.
Verbose. So.
Yes, verbose, but like the details matter, right? You say you have a lot of like federal experience. You've worked with alongside other people in their campaigns.
Yes, sir.
A lot of different hats. Why did you decide District 31 House Representative instead of any other position? Because there's like smaller cabinet positions,
absolutely,
stuff like that.
Yeah. So a lot of the problems and issues that we have are not just central to Texas or central Texas issues. They're federal issues. They're national issues. That's the number one thing. And the second reason is because Texas 31 is my home. Like, this is where I grew up. We camped every year in Marble Falls, at Inks Lake State Park. My kids went to Devil's Water Hole and jumped off the rocks there.
That's a great name.
That's Devil's Water Hole. It's great,
Sick ass name for.
And what's fun is like as kids grow, there's different tiers and levels to jump in, right? And if you can jump from the top one, you can jump from the middle ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so similar to this run for Congress, while I see things from a very federal perspective and a national perspective, if I can do this from there and affect everything down the line, that's what I'm going to try to do.
If you were to get that position, you would definitely be like building like allegiances and coordinating with the lower positions.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because the role of a representative is to, one, take the information and the needs of the area,
Mm-hmm.
to echo those up into Washington, then to write policy that then affects the people and helps the people down here. But those policies enable those local people in order to get funding for public roads, get funding for public transit systems. Those are the kind of larger systems that we can then affect here locally. And so while individual buttons and levers can be pushed from a local level, I wanted to take my experience from the working at a national level and bring those things down to here so other people at this level can do those things.
Kind of like a little bit going off track here. What do you like to do when you're off time?
I spend a lot of time with my family. Of my kids, the 7 kids, there's 5 of them that live in the state.
Okay, I was gonna ask if they live nearby you.
Yes. No. Sorry.
Texas is huge,
yes, but no,
so just because it's same state, it could be like a 10, 12-hour drive.
Correct. So of the 5 that live in Texas, the majority of them live in the DFW area, except for one. Right now, he's actually in basic training right now.
Oh, okay, cool.
In the Army. So, our service continues. My daughter, who's also in the National Guard, she's now out. She lives in Austin. And so the other 3, well, one is here, who is here. And the other one is or 2 more up in the DFW area as well. And so
Shout
about
out
once...
Matthias.
He is sitting here. So the once a month we typically get everybody together, and but then every weekend I spend time with my parents. We do Sunday brunches and things of that nature. Other than that, I'm outdoors all the time.
Okay.
I love to grill. I love to camp. I go off-roading with my Jeep.
You got it all tricked out. Got the lift. Got the
I got a lift. No snorkel kit.
No snorkel kit.
Yeah, it's my Jeep is more rugged. My wife has a Jeep as well. We both have Jeep Wranglers, and hers is prettier than mine. But mine goes off road, and yeah, so we love doing it. And I love parks. I love the Texas parks, the wide open skies. This is just my home. I love this place. So,
what is your favorite thing about the district?
Wow. Okay, I love the people here. Right. I can recall when I left for the military, and when I was coming back. When I would be on the plane and people were from Texas, I could tell. It's like the culture is different down here.
Interesting.
It's what I'm familiar with. It's what I'm used to.
What is that tell?
If I could tell you, I would,
Is it like a manner of speaking? It
could be a manner of speaking. It's a manner of dress. It's a manner of, holding yourself. It's just something different about the values that I see that I've grown up with in the area. Outside of the people, I love the environment. I love right here where we are in Georgetown. It's amazing because we can walk to the square and spend time. We have a little, bar that we go to that's like our Cheers. People know who we are there.
Nice.
And throughout the entirety of the district, there's so many places with new and unique areas coming up. Belton, it's amazing. It's coming up. It's got a lot of different unique areas and bars.
That K1,
Yes.
the South Korean.
Yeah.
In Belton? What?
In Belton?
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, Hutto has the co-op, which is amazing to spend time at in the co-op. Temple is phenomenal. I love downtown, Old Town Temple. So just the area, Killeen, I can't wait for Killeen to live up to its 100,000 people, you know, because downtown Killeen, they had a huge revitalization project, and I can't wait for it to just grow up and blow up.
Oh, awesome.
This area is such a great and wonderful area, prime for taking care of the people here. I'm going to be a part of that.
Something I really appreciate about Temple, for example, that's where I'm from, is all the parks. Just having so many options for parks.
Absolutely.
Like you walk like a mile or something. It's like, oh, you
another park.
Yeah, another park.
Yeah.
Be it small, be it big. There's a lot of like really good like investment and stuff into the public spaces like that, which is great.
And that's what makes a great community great, is having those spaces and areas for us to get there. Now, on the flip side, unfortunately, you know, we don't want investors coming in and stripping our, the goal of the community.
We are starting to see that a little bit too. Yeah.
I was talking to some people, some voters in Killeen, and they were happy about a certain business coming in. I won't name the business. And I said, yes, but that business takes your money that you spend there and sends it to Wall Street. And so other small businesses that you could go to revitalize or put that money back into the community and helps build up that community. Or we have other companies who come in and strip us from those things and send them off. And it's one of the things I talk about often.
So something that I've been talking about with some people is the Tanglefoot Festival.
Okay.
Which was like, it's crazy because it was like artists that are not from Temple. It was barbecue places that are not from Temple. And we have both of those things. So the tickets were incredibly expensive for the people that live in town. So who's this for? Yeah, they shut down downtown. There were a bunch of, I guess, people from like the Austin area or whatever. I think most of them were from that, like the artists and barbecue places and stuff. It's like all that money that is being made in that festival is not going to stay in Temple. It's gonna get out. So what's the point?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, when I was in North Carolina, I did some work for the small area I lived in, and we had police officers who were not living in the area we're living in or we worked in. And so they would pay money for people to come in to live there, but then we would pay them and that money went out the door. And so then we talk about Ferguson, we talk about, other things that happened in the U.S., like, with Michael Brown and Ferguson and stuff. We had the riots there.
Yes.
The problem that people had spoke about was that they were paying police officers who did not live in the community. And so their money was actually leaving the community whenever they were paying people. And we have a lot of that happening. And now we take it to corporations and businesses. That model is still there, where they come into the community and your dollars go out everywhere else. It doesn't come back in there. So I was trying to explain to one person, when you look around and you see mom and pop shops, go to them all the time. That's the one you need to go to.
Yes.
Because as soon as you start seeing chains, that money goes up and out somewhere else, somewhere out the door. So I appreciate people who make their money and know how to do it. We actually went to a restaurant last night, which I will not name. And it's absolutely a place that is owned by an investment bank. And it was absolutely terrible.
Ooh.
And it took us an hour to get fast food. And it's like this company came in, bought this small mom and pop shop. They sold out to them for almost $1 billion. And then they said, okay, now let's change your processes and make it work for us and not for them. So I don't think anybody wants to wait an hour for fast food.
No, it's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
It's expensive as hell.
Yeah, it was expensive.
Like if you're getting fast food, that means you don't have a lot of time to spare.
Correct.
So like completely failing to provide that service that it's supposed to provide.
I will say my niece wanted to go, so we stuck around the entire time for my niece.
Did she enjoy it?
She did not enjoy it. She went on Instagram like, out of space.
0 stars.
Yeah.
We kind of touched about this a little bit, but I guess to be a little bit more specific.
Sure.
What are your core issues that you're focused on and hope to accomplish as House District 31 representative?
So core issues, I've talked to a lot of people around core issues and things, but I've really centered them down to 3 specific things, right?
Justin Early's top 3.
Correct, top 3. And of those top 3, of course, we have branches off of them and do other things, but it's security, it's dignity, and it's opportunity, right? So we want to make sure we have security, and that's, job security, that's healthcare security, that's making sure the whole human, who we are, is taken care of and done. Dignity, we want to do all those things with dignity, right? We need to make sure that we are respectful, we are doing the things according to law and the rule of law. And then opportunity, every dollar that's spent in the federal government should come back and create jobs for people in the areas that those jobs are at. The more money that goes to people who just put more zeros behind their name, the less money that comes here. I saw a thing, an article that popped up, but it said that, basically billionaires, whatever, have stolen $50 trillion from U.S. workers since 1975.
I believe it.
And now you could have told me 1 trillion. You could have told me 13 trillion. You could tell me 50 trillion. The problem is that should not be happening. And so when we talk about security, opportunity, and dignity, we want to make sure that all of those things are encompassed around how are we paying people? How are we taking care of people? How are we housing people? How are we feeding people? These are core and basic needs that if we're focusing on security, opportunity, and dignity, that's the direction we want to make sure we go. And those are my 3 core issues.
So you've mentioned you've been going out and about. We've seen you at a bunch of different events. You've gone to the socials. You've gone to events in Killeen, events in Temple, events everywhere, which is great. That's what we like to see. That's part of the job. That's the representative, not hiding in your like restaurant that has your picture on it like John Carter. So after speaking to these people like face to face and having those like not tough but like informative conversations, what is the biggest issues that you see the constituents of District 31 facing?
The number one is income inequality. Right? Number one.
Across the board, no matter which area.
Everything that is even not specifically that equates back to income inequality, right?
That's the core.
We have an income inequality problem. People are stressed because they can't afford a home. Well, either they don't make enough or somebody's jacking up the cost of homes for them that's outside of their district or outside of their, pay band, right? They can afford. We talk about food insecurity. We talk about healthcare. All of those things boil down to income inequality. If we focus on putting tax dollars into those areas that core needs that people have, then we can start talking about what would you like to do with those things in that time. But today we have such a problem where people are focused on, am I going to make rent? Am I going to, be able to afford this? Nobody should be put into a situation where they decide, do I take care of my child or do I pay my rent, right? We have seniors who are octogenarians, right? Who are working for Walmart or working for these large corporations. And we have large corporations who have the most amount of people on welfare programs. So when I hear from people and I hear what they're saying, because I see things a little differently, like when I watch the news and the stock market and stuff, right? It's like, oh, the stocks are on the rise,
Like go up.
Yeah, that's great. It's, I don't see that. What I see is those are my tax dollars going to somebody else. That's exploitation going up, right? That's what I see. And I want to make sure that government is a force for good to bring back to the people. And so when I hear people's problems around healthcare, food, all these things, it boils down to income inequality.
Yeah, and it's a thing too where it's like, oh, the economy's doing great. For who?
For who? Right.
Who is the economy for?
Yeah.
The 1%.
I tell people all the time, when they put the stuff in the stock market, they're not talking to me.
No.
They're talking to 8 people, and I'm not one of them.
Yep, they're talking to the Texas billionaires that control the state.
Correct.
They're talking to everybody that is exploiting
the
workforce.
Yeah. Yep. One quick thing on that too, on the exploitation of workers and stuff. I have a great friend of mine who does not think the same politically as I do, and he's concerned, which is fun. He's my best friend.
That's one of the core things about being a person. Is not agreeing 100%.
That's my dude.
With
I
everybody.
love this dude. I love this dude. And we talked about AI and AI systems, right? And I communicated about how my concern about AI is because it's taking jobs away from people. It's taking, and he's like, well, you should really talk about like what AI can do for you. And I said, that's great. And I can and I will. But let me give you an example. And the example is this. Michael Bloomberg is a billionaire. How did Michael Bloomberg become a billionaire? So we look at old movies from the 80s and we see these guys on the floor of the stock market, New York Stock Exchange, buy, sell. They got 4 phones, sweating. Yeah. You don't see that today. You know why? Because Michael Bloomberg made a machine that then did not need those people.
The Bloomberg terminal.
Yep. Absolutely. And so his billions came from all of their paychecks that were on the floor. Now is his money. That is where exploitation is going. And so with AI systems, that is literally my fear for that is the direction is, any corporation, any company, labor is your largest expense. So if they have a way to get rid of labor, they will do it. People will do that. They will minimize expenses to maximize shareholder profit, and the story goes on.
Yeah.
And so
it's the Jack Welch thing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this guy. There's a great book called The Man Who Broke Capitalism.
Okay.
And it's about this motherfucker. So basically every, the quarterly reports, right, are like super important or whatever. He used to work for, I think it was General Electric.
Okay.
No, yeah, General Electric back when they were good. Union, everything. He basically made it so that if you do the layoff thing, we just lay off tons of people. It looks great on that quarterly.
It sure
report.
does. It sure does.
Because like you said, that is one of the biggest expenses of any business.
If you look like you made this much money, but then you saved this much money in a quarter, then all of a sudden the stock goes up, everybody looks happy. You're goosing it. That's literally what you're doing. You know?
You're goosing it.
You are, but you are. And so I've worked for companies where literally it was like, oh no, it's the end of the year and we're nervous. And it's like, this happens every end of the year.
Yeah.
They will fire off a certain percentage of people, then open up new recs that hire new people out. And they either pay them a different salary or a lower salary, sometimes a higher salary, right? Even more than the person they had there before, because it makes their end of quarter look great, end of year look great. And I think that's not a model that we should be honoring on showing the stock market and things of that nature. I think we should be taking consideration of what happens to the actual individual, what happens with that.
Yeah.
The final point on this is a company doesn't have to worry about where those people go once they get fired. A government does.
Yeah.
A government has to figure out both sides of the equation because the tax dollars come in and the services go out. If you're not bringing in money, then you're taking services. If all people getting fired, you still have to worry about them on the services side.
You got the healthcare that is tied to your job.
You have unemployment. You have, and even still like housing. Yeah.
Yep.
If you can't afford your mortgage, now all of a sudden, what has to go into that in order to keep the community revitalized and things happening? And certainly what ends up happening is some corporation will come in and buy stuff because now it's on the cheap.
Yep.
So
if elected, what is the first bill that you will file or sponsor?
Have you heard the riddle? Like wake up, you're in a dark room and it's cold and you have a candle, you have a gas stove, and you have like a kerosene, heater, right?
Okay.
And you've only got one match. Which one do you light first?
I want to say the heater.
Good answer. However, you need to light the match first. And the reason I'm telling you this riddle is because everything I want to do absolutely has to be done. But if we don't handle the current state of the democracy, we can get into Congress, we can support bills and all these things of nature, and somebody can veto it out, right? We can do all these great things for people that we want to do. We can talk about all the things we want to do. But if we don't take power back and have three co-equal branches of government, then anything we write will not work.
True.
So that's number one. But either with the same bill or shortly thereafter, we need to have an economic stimulus for regular people, right? The tax dollars that went away from those who, the big ugly bill, the big tax bill that went through, those dollars need to come from somewhere, and they're coming from us.
Yep.
But if we're getting from us, now we have people who are suffering. Like again, rent can't be paid. They're working two jobs. Teachers have to, buy their own supplies or give up plasma or work two jobs in order to do what they're doing.
That's crazy. The amount that do that on the side is insane.
Why are we not doing an economic stimulus package for those workers? So if I could wave a magic wand and there is not a problem with democracy today, I would absolutely support and go after a economic stimulus package for regular workers. But before we can do that, we have to fix our democracy because there is a stalemate in Congress right now. The power has been given to the executive branch. We need to figure out a way to get that back in order to help regular people.
This is what day 11 or 12 of the shutdown?
Shutdown, yes. Yeah. We got to talk to my son the other Sunday, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday prior. And he was like, yeah, they told us it might take us a couple of weeks or months to get our pay in for the first time.
Weeks or months?
Yeah. And I said, son, government shut down, right? Like you might not get paid for it until the government comes back up. And so this 15th will be the first 15th that the military members are not going to be paid. And so if a government...
As they're being shipped out to all these other places for crises that aren't even happening.
And so let's talk on that real quick. So it's not only that we have to pay them to go into Portland or go into Chicago or wherever else like that. Those people are National Guardsmen. They don't work full time. Their full-time job is at home, like here in Texas 31. And so now their business that they work for, their childcare expenses, the things that they used to do Monday through Friday on a basis that they do every day has now been interrupted. For what reason? And they sign up to do these things in order to protect democracy,
uphold
the Constitution against, enemies, foreign and domestic. So who's the enemy? What are we doing here? So not only are we taxing people my tax dollars are going to put them somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, what's going to happen to the businesses at home because they're deployed? So yeah, there's so much to be done. But the first thing I would do would be an economic stimulus package. At the very same time, try to make sure the power in Congress is going back.
Gotcha.
So,
A fantastic answer.
thank you.
Yeah, really good.
Do you like my riddle? Aha.
Yeah. If you had given me like a good 4 hours
Okay,
to
good.
really
Yeah.
like
Get into
digest
it,
that
yeah.
question, I probably would still have the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so people are feeling dejected and abandoned by the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to run as a Democrat?
Yes.
And
so,
you know what? To add to that,
Okay.
what does Democrat mean to you?
yeah. So to me, the Democratic Party has been the party that stands on civil rights or stands by civil rights. Everybody knows that the Republican Party was the party of Lincoln, but a lot of people don't talk about how the parties kind of flipped ideologies back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And that was because when Martin Luther King was arrested for a sit-in, they looked to Nixon, who was the vice president at the time, running for president in the 1960 election. And they were looking to him, civil rights leaders were saying, hey, are you going to say something about this because it's wrong and egregious? And Nixon stayed silent. And so Coretta Scott King actually had a phone call from JFK. And he said, this is atrocious. I really don't want to speak out, publicly about it, but this is horrible. And if I get elected, I will definitely do something. Coretta Scott King then told her father-in-law, Martin Luther King Sr., and he went out and said, you know what? I wasn't going to vote for him, but since he is going to do something for my son, I think I will vote for him. And that caused a flood of African Americans to vote for JFK in the 1960 election. And that right there was the spurring moment of how are they becoming more on civil rights and everything of that nature. So now here we are in 2025. The Republican Party may have been the party of Lincoln, but they have gone so far from that,
Yeah.
right? I believe in dignity and opportunity versus the opposite of that, which we're seeing with some of the policies that are being put forth by the Republicans. And so for me, it was kind of a non-question, other than, independent or libertarian or things in there. That was probably more of a question, but the Republican Party is not standing for the values that I believe they should have been standing for if they claim to be the party of Lincoln.
Right. They gloss over some of the civil rights stuff in
Yes,
schools.
yes.
And the amount of stuff I've learned as an adult from talking to people in the Black community is insane. It's I wish I knew this. This is cool as hell. What? I didn't know
By
that.
design, my friend.
Yeah, it sucks. So JFK kind of showing his support of that, even
Soft
though it
support,
was
but yeah.
soft support,
Mhm, mhm.
even though it wasn't private, just being, I guess, yourself, allowing yourself to be a person and standing by any sort of morals.
Correct.
Can have such a paradigm shift over time in the
Absolutely.
quality of our politicians and policy and all that
Yes.
stuff. That's so cool that was kind of what led to the Democratic Party
Absolutely, as it is
to completely
today.
shift.
Yeah, it is the party of civil rights. It is the party of, I would say the stand up for everybody, for the people who can't stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm running as a Democrat.
Yeah.
And that's what it means for me to be a Democrat, right? Is to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves.
Yeah. And it also goes to show things are malleable.
Absolutely.
We're seeing the stuff with Zoran and stuff about doing the free buses and stuff like that. And he's not your typical Democrat. He's more like the Bernie kind of
Absolutely.
Democrat.
Absolutely.
He's an independent, but
Yes.
a lot of the same policy wise. And people are really captivated and engrossed by that. The genuine care that he's showing. And we're seeing some other candidates. I think there's this Graham guy in some other state. I forget which state. But he's also kind of going based off of that.
Yeah.
And talking to a lot of people that are running in this area in District 31, in District 17, that kind of echoes too. And it's so cool to see people being genuine
Yes.
and actually trying to make things better for everybody.
For everybody.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And I support those who can be genuine to themselves and take care of their neighbors around them.
Absolutely.
One thing I like to say is that I joined the military. I served to make my family better. I served to make my neighbors better. And I served to make America better. And I see that coming through with some of the same people you're talking about. So
Yeah, for sure. How would you encourage more everyday Texans, especially younger and working class folk, to get involved in civic life? As
Yeah.
you know, our voter turnout is abysmal
right.
by design.
by design. And, I think it's two things, right? So in order to get over the by design, making it difficult to vote, when you got to worry about rent being done, you can't really go and take, time off of work to go vote. If you have to worry about childcare and all those things, you can't really vote. So one thing I want to be able to do is to be a very inspirational speaker, person, candidate, in order to say, you were not alone. We can help you, but we need to put people in the right place to get there. We spoke about the Democratic Party and where they're at today. A lot of people are disingenuous to the Democratic Party because they don't have young leaders to go in and say, I'm going to stand on my feet, 10 toes down, and here's how we're going to take care of things, right? I want to be that candidate for my home in Texas 31. And I think that right there is really what's going to bring people out of their, I don't really know, I don't really care, because I've seen it so far, right? I've gone places, I've met with people, and I've talked to people who are just like, I don't have time for you. Oh, wait, well, tell me more. Okay, tell me more. Oh, actually, let's do this. And then they sign up to be a volunteer, and I was like, I thought you didn't have time, but that's okay. I'll take it,
You pull out the salesman.
Exactly. Yeah. I did sales too for a little bit.
Oh, great. Awesome.
I've done a lot of things. Yeah, I've done a lot of things that really helped out to being in this position here. But in order to get people and more civically minded, you have to let them know that, one, they're being heard, and you have to listen to them. That's the other thing. But really, you have to give them a reason to go vote. You have to give them somebody to believe in to go vote. People talk about Barack Obama, and they talk about how they gave him hope and, all these things. And that's great. I read Race Matters by Cornel West. It's 1993. I read like the 25th year and re-edition. And I'm reading the book. And Cornel West says in the book, he says, there are no black leaders today. And I'm like, bro, who are you? I thought you were a black leader today, So, but he said, there's no Malcolm, there's no Martin, there's no Marcus, today. And I really thought about that hard. And I said, I don't need to be these people. I just need to be me. And if I'm who I am, people will stand with me. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, they had no comparison.
Correct.
Like they were just being themselves.
Just being themselves. Yeah, exactly.
And then they became iconic.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to get a little bit on policy issues.
Sure. It's great.
So public education. What do you think about the current state of public education right now? And if you could reshape it from its core, what would that look like?
Yeah. I think it's abysmal. We'll start there, right? Let's start there.
Agreed.
All of my children went to public school. And I did a lot as a parent to make sure they're getting an education that I wanted them to get, right?
Okay.
And so a lot of my time was spent afterwards doing a lot of things for them. But what I wanted to make sure they were able to do was have curiosity, right? Let kids be kids. Let kids discover what they want to find out and what they want to learn and do, versus sit down, here's a book, thou shalt do. I remember when I was a kid, and this, my friends make fun of me for this. I had a Time magazine subscription when I was like 13 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which is a weekly magazine. So I had all these, things. But I remember reading one time, probably 96, 97, that America's schools are failing our boys. And it was like how boys are failing schools because of the way that they're being taught. Sit down in here, fill this out. We were over-testing kids. Order, right?
Yeah.
And we are doing that again today. We're over-testing children. We're over-stressing them out because in order for that school to get funding, the child has to get a certain grade. So now all of a sudden, the goal is not education. The goal is making a test or making a grade in order for that school to get funding, in order to keep your job, in order to keep the doors open. And so to me, that's abysmal, right? You lose focus on taking care of children and educating children. What was the second part of the question? What would I do next?
If you could reshape it from its core, what would that look like?
So I do a lot of reading, and one of the books that I had read had talked about a couple of different methods throughout the world where children are given the opportunity or the ability to just go and be curious, right? And I would absolutely, I think one of them is Let Them Grow, is a program that's in New York that's basically let them discover, let them explore. And that's one of the things I really try to do with my own children was, go find out what's out there. If we have children in a little box their entire lives, we're telling them everything's been discovered. You don't need to discover anything else. And so I will hand you what you need to know, what you need to do. I don't believe that's the right answer because we're not going to get inventive people out of doing that same thing. If we're doing the same thing over and over again, we're going to get the same result over and over again. So I want to make sure that we're taking schools and growing them. We look at these inventors throughout the history, right? And we talk about Thomas Edison and the light bulb, and we talk about, all these people who've invented things, but we never talk about their failures. And you have to fail in order to learn and do more.
That is a big thing. Yeah, people are terrified.
But what happens if you fail in school? you're punished.
You're punished. Yep.
You're punished. So we're telling children, in order to learn the best, you're going to be punished by doing it.
Yeah.
That is a fundamentally wrong thing to do for public schools. Mm-hmm. And so while we have a public school system that is amazing to everybody right now, has to be educated. That is the way the public school system is set up. That's why they're attacking the Department of Education, because every student, every child in America has to be educated. But how are we educating them is the problem. And the how is we need to let them grow, allow them to be curious, and allow them to become who they need to be.
Staying on school for a little bit.
Sure.
Unfortunately, like this country has a pervasive problem with mass casualty events.
Yes.
In schools. And how is there anything that you could do as a House District Representative to kind of tackle that issue? And what would that look like?
Yes. So, as a representative, the goal and the role is to provide funding for certain things and activities that happen into the districts, into the areas around, right? So one of those things is what we're doing today is making schools safer by providing cameras, armed police officers, and we're essentially we're locking every door but one door, right? Creating a fire hazard, creating these. So we're building our schools into being essentially
detention
prisons.
Centers.
Yes, detention centers, right?
Anyway.
And while our gut reaction is that will keep our children safe, it has not been proven out to be that way. But there are other locations throughout the world that provide the schools and protect them just as much. So one of the things I want to be able to do is allow the schools to make the decision of what's best for their communities, if it is additional cameras, if it is additional whatever else, but it's also to put more money back in the community itself to have mental health care for people who are around. I support red flag laws. Thank you. Had a great conversation with a friend of mine a number of years ago about red flag laws. And at first when I heard it, I was scared. I was like, oh my goodness, like they're going to come in and take your guns, know? I thought is that really what we do in America? And when I read the law, oh my goodness, it was actually from Portland. I believe this was a great long form article. It was amazing, talking about how here's the times it was enacted, here's the ways it was enacted, here's what has to happen in order for that to happen. And so that right there ended up reducing the amount of mass casualties and of those in that area. And one person in the article actually said, yeah, I was really going to do something that direction, but they took my guns 2 weeks before I could do anything. And I was like, did anybody else read this? So to me, those type of laws and those type of things help and work. And so I would absolutely allow schools to have the funding in order to provide additional cameras. I would allow communities to have additional mental health workers in order to help out those things. Because I was talking to a teacher just the other day, and she had said that there was a student in her class who held a pencil, and he was holding it, he was gripping it very, very tightly. And I said, well, that sounds very, threatening. And she says, yes, I have to be a counselor. Well, she said, hey, I understand you're going through a lot right now. You seem very stressed out today. And if you can't tell me what's going on, that's okay. But because what you're displaying, I need you to either go out the hall and take a moment for yourself or go to the principal's office in order to take some time out. And she had said the student just got up and walked out with his pencil.
Still gripping it.
Still gripping that pencil, right? And she was afraid that something were to happen because she was talking close to him. And that scenario right there, she had the training and the understanding of what to do to counsel that student.
Yeah.
And so instead of making the teachers armed guards, make them more counselors, or allow a counselor to be in the school with them in order to see those things while the person is given instruction. And then a worker could be in there and say, okay, let's assess the classroom. We have a need for more people in classrooms. We have a need for more jobs in this country. Let's put them on things that actually help and build our communities, such as mental health workers or people inside the classrooms.
Yeah, that's so really interesting. It made me think about when I was in school. You only ever saw the counselor like maybe once a year.
Yeah,
like
and what's that thinking about?
And if you wanted to, you would have to reach out to them.
Correct.
Instead of probably the way it should be, which is them reaching out to you, which
Correct.
Again goes back into the whole funding thing.
Yes.
Like a lot of these issues can kind of be traced back to funding, which is kind of going with like, hey, there's like a core to everything that we're talking about. Because like things kind of suck right now. Kids are feeling the suck.
Yeah.
And they're responding accordingly. Like,
yeah,
being put in this box, not allowing them to be curious. They're going into these dark corners that are proliferating that and amping it up more and leading them to really extreme, drastic conclusions about life.
About what to do.
About what to do.
And One book I read recently was called Stolen Focus. I cannot remember the author's name at this time, but it's called Stolen Focus. Came out in 2024, I believe, either early 25 or late 2024, and it talks about how we talk as a society. Oh, we have ADHD. Oh, we can't focus. Oh, we have these issues. And he breaks down all of these different reasons why it could happen. And he talks about the food we're eating, the media we're consuming, all these different things. But one of them he talks about specifically is how we live in society and how we tell people to sit down in one chair all day long. And in the book, he talks about zoo animals who display certain behaviors inside the area. Like tigers will go in circles and stuff. Yeah. And it's because a tiger's natural habitat is to roam within miles of its area.
Yes.
But because it can't roam in miles, it's just spinning in its circle, right? And we think, what's wrong with a tiger? It's because we put that tiger in a situation that's not for their nature. And if we're taking children, we're seeing all these issues happening where we're over-medicating them for ADHD, we're disciplining them for things that they're doing. Maybe they're lashing out because of the society we're putting them into. So if we can test that and figure out what works best for students in areas, I mean, first and foremost, we don't have to test too much because other countries are doing things that are a little bit better. But if we want to test those things out here, give the funding to initialize some studies on what is best for them, then we can cut down on school shootings. We can cut down on a lot of things of that nature, right? By understanding what happens if we have people in these environments for since 18, whatever.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If another country's already doing it, just take, that data set and see if it'll adapt it to America. We've seen it in a bunch of different areas and stuff.
Yes.
So healthcare access, how would you expand healthcare access and improve outcomes, including for disabled communities?
So healthcare access is a huge deal. Like Texas has one of the number one of the top states of uninsured, people, which is not something we should be known by.
Yeah.
Which is terrible. But I strongly believe in moving towards universal health care, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be Medicare for all, Medicaid for all, whether that be whatever system, a single payer system, the whole goal and role would be to move people away from having their value based on what their job they have. So if you have a certain job, then you get certain health care, and then you get certain, things in life, right? If you lose your job, I spoke to a truck driver. He's actually a bartender now. And he, this was a few weeks ago.
Interesting pivot.
Because he had a heart problem. And because of his heart problem, he couldn't drive over the road anymore. He and his wife did team trucking.
Even being diabetic.
Correct.
Can get you out of that.
Yeah. I used to own a trucking company, so I know that. Another thing in my background is different,
So many side quests.
I would never, ever, ever do that again. But that's another story. Ever. So he was a truck driver, and he couldn't drive anymore because of his heart condition. And so because he couldn't drive anymore, he lost his healthcare coverage. He went into the open market for the ACA, and the healthcare costs kept going up and up and up. So he couldn't afford it anymore. And so he was distraught and upset. And also he would not have supported my policies before my conversation with him. But he understood that healthcare access is important, and your value should not be deemed by your employment, who your employer is. If he is just valued as a human being, that's the dignity portion we're talking about.
Right.
If he's valued as a human being, then we can provide that security, which is healthcare security. So what would I do first? I would expand Medicaid, number one, expand Medicare, making sure people have the option to do that. But then I would move us or work to move us towards a Medicare for all situation, or, single payer, or if that be, universal health care, whatever direction we need to go to get to, you don't have to worry about how much it costs when you go to the doctor. That's the direction we need to go.
Right. One of the biggest things that I wanted to ask you about was, because of your background in data security and engineering and all that stuff, with the rise in data centers and the instability of our lovely Texas grid.
Yeah.
What is your plan to prevent the rising costs and power outages for those in your district?
Yes. It's a huge problem in issue area. Not only are we putting things right next to homes, we're putting data centers in places that historically need more water, need more electricity, because they're cheap land to buy and to build, right?
Right.
So there's two parts to that, not only the electrical part, but also the water part. Let's talk about electricity first. So first and foremost, we should require these data centers to provide energy back into the grid. They're buying land, they're taking up space. They should be either getting, solar power, solar panels, somehow, some way that they're not only being a complete burden to the system, but putting, power back into the system.
Okay.
They should be buying battery packs. They should be doing all the things they can to be self-sufficient. If you buy the land, provide your own energy, right? The Texas grid is already doing terribly. The second thing, the electricity on that, is microgrids, right? Building out microgrids in and around these areas. There's no reason if a data center is taking power that we're going to take power from a home, which may have an oxygen or anything of that year,
Yes.
or a hospital, right? And hospitals have microgrids as well. So if we can actually build out with these data centers and things that have microgrids around, that would actually help that out. But the third point of all this is water. And water acts as a huge one. So a lot of systems now, or a lot of data centers that are being built now are on what's called a closed system, where instead of bringing water in, cooling things down and sending the water out and whatever, they can bring 200 and some million gallons or 200 some gallons, 200 million gallons in. Have a closed system, that water then circulates through the entire system and keeps it cool. But that water actually doesn't last forever. They have to dispose of that water after 5 years. So then once they dispose of the water in 5 years, that's when they have pollution issues and that kind of stuff, right? But the people who build the data centers don't worry about that. So the people who buy the land don't worry about that. So you argue the microgrid and the power issue first, but then you also make sure that when you deed the land to somebody, that they cannot put the water that they're using their systems back into the land. The final point to this is I think we should really have an area where we're doing this at, not necessarily throughout the entire nation. We built the internet through pipes throughout the entire nation, right? There's certain areas that if you get in that city, it's super fast internet because that is the backbone of the internet. Well, you want a data center near those backbones as well. But what they end up doing is buying cheap land and then backhauling data back into those backbone systems. So if we can do that, why don't we build data center areas, right? The problem with data centers is you're building this huge thing, which then you got a lot of construction, you got a lot of energy, a lot of plumbers, people going in to build that thing. But once that thing is built, it can be ran by a handful of people.
Yeah, all those jobs.
All those jobs are gone.
Yep.
Poof.
Yeah, there was an article on the Temple Daily Telegram about that.
Oh,
it was like, it's bringing like 700 jobs
for a time,
for like a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, when they build it, and then it's going to be like 40 people. It was like $7 million or whatever for 40 jobs.
For 40 jobs.
That are mostly going to be coming from outside of Temple anyway.
And even those 40 jobs, while they still have to eat lunch and buy houses and all those things to stimulate the economy, and if they get a good paycheck for that, it's not going to stimulate the economy the way the original 700 people would have.
Yeah.
It's not worth $7 million in tax breaks in order for that to happen.
Yeah, the tax abatement deal that they have them sign. It's ludicrous.
And on top of that, they get access to water. So a friend of mine, another friend.
Priority access to water.
Priority access to water.
Priority access to electricity as well.
So another friend, future voter, person that I speak with, they had a house in Oklahoma. And they bought their house in Oklahoma. They were like, this is my home. I'm going to love here. I'm never moving ever again. And they dug their own well for $12,000, had to get down and get their own well, blah, blah, blah. Then 5 years later, a business comes in and basically sucks all the water out of there. So now they have no water for there to live. And when they go and argue about the water issue situation, it's like, well, the water access is, they have priority water access. It's okay. That water issue that I just spoke about can happen right here in Texas 31. So we want to make sure that we're not only looking at the electricity, the jobs, and the water, because that affects our security, our dignity, and our opportunity. That's what we need to fix up and clean. So I want to put systems in place in order to make sure if you're going to build these things, let's build them only in one area, in one spot, and then consolidate it. And if that is, and you should also provide your own power or provide a way to put power back into the system.
Right.
So
instead of just like vampirically sucking everything
and then for
out.
what? Like if you, there's a comedian out there.
I need my AI slop.
Well, that's right. Yeah, exactly. He said every time you ask a question of AI, it takes about a bottle of water. So if you were asking a real person that, like, hey, what time is it in Taiwan, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, hold on a second. And you guzzle a whole bottle of water. It's like, okay, it's like, 13 hours ahead of us, right? Well, that's great. What about in Japan? Like, okay, hold on, let me drink another bottle of water, If we think about it in those terms, it's silly to ask these questions, but the systems are given to you in order for you to use and to train them so that then they can do something else later on. And it's just as like our Facebook and all the other things that are out there. If you are not paying for it, you are the product.
Yeah.
And so when you're putting all these things in the system, they are taking that data and that information and doing something with it. So it's taking our water, electricity, and our knowledge, and we don't know what's going to happen to it later on. So,
are there any closing remarks? That
would
like to say?
I really appreciate what the work Indivisible does. I think you guys are phenomenal on we're doing this right here. We're talking to different candidates, right? People need to know who their candidates are, who they can vote for, because they can say, hey, that's who I stand by, or that's what I need to know. Two, just the resistance, right? Understanding that we don't have to stand up to what is given us to us today. The history of the United States, the beauty of the United States, is actually we have the ability to challenge the systems that are there. It's groups like Indivisible who do that, right? A lot of people are comfortable with what they're doing, but we have a 40-hour work week because unions said, hey, look, this is wrong. Child labor laws because this is wrong. Women have the ability to vote, right? That's resistance. The civil rights movement, resistance. So I love that Indivisible's out there to do that and provide a resistance. I do speak to a lot of people, and sometimes when they're like, I just don't know what to do with my energy to do, I always point them to Indivisible. I was like, hey, check them out, see what you can do for them to get additional help and hands because you guys need that.
Yeah.
I'm working to earn the votes of the people I grew up with, my neighbors, my friends. This is where I live. This is my home. When people say, go back to where you grew up from, this is it right here. You're sitting in it right now.
I'm there.
I'm there, right? And so it would be the greatest honor of my life to represent the people in this area. I'm a veteran. I'm a father. I'm a business owner. But I'm doing these things for the honor to be here with my neighbors in order to get things better for them as I see them. And vote early for Justin early, right?
Thank you so much for taking that time to sit down with us, Justin.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
I guess that's it.
Clap. Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
I'll give you another one. Here you go.